slow burn, slow paced, slow. These are all terms used to describe Andor. Although it came highly recommended by my audience,
just keeps spreading, doesn't it?
I was fairly warned about how Andor crawls in its pacing. So on the fateful Wednesday, as I turned on my TV and tucked in bed about to see it, I was expecting something, well, slow. What I got instead was an intricate delivery of masterful storytelling spread beautifully over multiple episodes that connect to each other meaningfully. Ergo, a standard serial drama. I shared none of the criticisms of the show's pacing. If anything, I thought it was exciting, impactful, and very well paced.
There is a darkness reaching like rust into everything around us. We let it grow, and now it's here. It's here, and it's not visiting anymore.
Since the popularity of streaming services and short-form social media content, we have seen a shift in entertainment consumption behavior. Binge culture has become the norm, and content is now designed to hook attention within seconds. Pacing, visuals, and audio cues are optimized for immediate engagement. So ChatGPT tells me when I asked about audience consumption behavior. GPT is vague, but also spot on. More TV series have adapted to this scroll culture, now prioritizing rapid plot progression, often rushed and clunky, exposition-heavy storytelling with little or no room for imagination, and more emphasis on quips and memeable moments.
Since when were they read?
Now more than ever, audiences have access to a wide variety of entertainment. So there's a lot of competition out there to capture and retain the attention of an audience. Obviously, if you're trying to win, you must tailor your content to the predicted whims of the customer. In the process of doing so, studios and platforms have tried very hard to tune down the content to the most convenient format, which at first glance likely wins you, the viewers, but ultimately, like all other parts of human life, choosing to indulge in momentary pleasure over long-term fulfillment often has dire repercussions. We may be losing here something we shouldn't.
An honor, sir.
Really? It's an assignment. Calibrate your enthusiasm.
Yes, sir.
While I don't agree with the notion that Andor as a whole is slow-paced, I believe it takes its time in ways that benefit the story. Before a single episode aired, Andor was already faced with two challenges, one internal and the other external. Internally, it's a prequel, so there is technically no real ending. Also, it's within a bigger franchise which has a lot of content already put out, so that doubles the trap of almost certainly being underwhelming. This unique challenge especially ties into the external one, the audience binge consumption problem. Structurally, Andor can be described as event TV, meaning it follows a serialized storytelling structure which is predicated upon three key elements: your story definition, stakes, and payoffs. Despite this fact, what the average modern Joe has come to expect, even when the piece of content ought to be serialized, is the episodic series structure, where every episode could more or less be a standalone, as it more often than not is composed of quick, flashy dopamine hit sequences, further crowned by attempts at crazy cliffhangers at the end of the episode. Furthermore, you probably get to watch the next episode immediately because the platform uploads entire seasons or multiple episodes at once. Most TV series today, even those adopting a serialized format, aren't truly serialized, at least not in the traditional sense, because networks and platforms rarely trust you to exercise the patience or restraint required to calibrate your enthusiasm for weekly single-episode releases. Despite this, Andor takes the rather unexpected but much appreciated route, especially by me, to tell its story.
Remember this. Freedom is a pure idea. It occurs spontaneously.
Nemik's manifesto indirectly sums up Andor's art direction and its existence in this current climate. Death by 1,000 cuts. Nemik refers to bringing down the tyrannical empire here, but this is exactly how Andor manages to completely bring us to our knees. Season 2, Episode 8, The Gorman Massacre.
Proceed.
Has been a topic of widespread discussion and genuine audience excitement. But how much of it flew right over our heads? It's like those not listening but listening situations where you are a bit absent-minded and someone asks you a question. You of course didn't hear them, so you ask them to repeat themselves. But before they get a chance to utter a word, your brain quickly realizes that you actually did hear them the first time and you jump to respond. I had a great time seeing season 1, but entering the second season, it was odd. Really odd. Especially the 3 opening episodes. Cassian gets stuck with some amateur disorganized rebel team, and it's so bizarre how long is spent on that. Then there is this wedding of Mon Mothma's daughter that is just sort of happening. 2 events seemingly not that relevant to the plot, and here we get this really long intro into the Gorman story. A little over 7 minutes screen time total is spent on this meeting, and there's some cutting to seemingly not relevant scenes in between. A full 1 minute 38 seconds that you could only describe as bizarre and awkward is spent on this presentation about the tourist attraction of Gorman, and when it finally ends, it is conveniently paused on this frame of a Gorman trader with a warm and welcoming, yet slightly eerie smile on his face. A subtle detail that goes right over your head. I mean, you see it, but you don't really care, or rather, you're not sure what to think or feel in the moment, especially since it's part of a long sequence that tests your attention span. So it just sits somewhere in the back of your mind. Prior to that, Krennic spends 1 minute 11 seconds directly informing us of the astronomical importance of this meeting.
The group in this room is the tightest of closed circles. Any security violation will be brought to the Emperor's personal attention.
But your brain is not picking it up properly, not the way it should. To you, it feels indirect, like a bunch of words being said in a meeting, which is what it is technically. He proceeds to explain the Emperor's energy agenda.
I met with the Emperor yesterday. The energy initiative remains the centerpiece of his agenda.
And just then, a menacing sounding score begins to play in the background as he speaks.
Access to stable, unlimited power will transform the galactic economy.
And even then, you still don't get it. You can hear it, but not the way you should hear it. Furthermore, the dialogue works to throw you off the scent.
Should we fail to find any alternatives, we will have to control Gorman with a hand firm enough to silence any resistance.
He uses phrases like find an alternative, so subconsciously you're thinking there are options outside of Gorman, and control Gorman resistance. He doesn't outrightly say crush or destroy. He says control and resistance. Choice words that allude to the Empire actually being on the defense of an assault rather than the instigator of one. So again, it's all going right over your head. I mean, you suspect and maybe even know what he is saying, but you don't feel it the way you should. Not yet. Between the long meeting and scene cutting to other irrelevancies, 2 things are happening to you that you don't realize. You've become lazy-brained after a long presentation of seemingly mundane events, and you're now being willfully led by the choice of words set up by the brilliant dialogue. Deep down, you know that the massacre of Gorman is imminent, but your mind has neither the alertness nor the willingness to fully process the thought. The war is happening in a different continent. The main point of this entire episode of mundane events happens close to its end in this interaction.
You need Gorman rebels you can depend on to do the wrong thing.
You're continually told exactly what is going to happen with scenes just like this over the course of the season.
Cyril must never know what this is all really about.
Yet, your dumbass still doesn't get it. Not the way you should anyway. Not the way you will when future you finally watches the Garment Massacre unfold episodes later. Andor uses this storytelling technique consistently over the course of the season. The seemingly irrelevant wedding that stretches over 3 episodes, except hey, from the very first scene when Tay says this,
Mark, I was hoping for a chance to speak.
you're being told that a big problem for the rebellion is brewing underneath the glitz, but you haven't a clue. Yet. Until Andor takes you on the journey, peeling the layers slowly in your subconscious, up to the moment you are ready to see and really feel. The huge sacrifices Mon Mothma has to make and Luthen's strict methods causing a tear in their relationship, something that will play a big part in building the tension and injecting unpredictability into Mon's actions at a later time in the plot when not sticking with Luthen's plans could cost her her life. Another great example of this is what happens with Dedra after this interaction with Krennic. One moment she's saying something as crazy as that, and in the next episode she is strategically being humanized by the writers. Preparing to meet her boyfriend's mother, she's even practicing smiling. Trying to make a good first impression, signaling to us that she's normal and she really does care about Cyril. We're seeing a completely different side to her, one that is conveniently shown to us through a series of irrelevant events as she simultaneously plots to wipe out an entire civilization of people. This is so effective that even when Dedra threatens Cyril's mother, you interpret it as an act of kindness for someone she loves, which it sort of is. But what is flying right over your head here is Dedra's twisted way of expressing love. Sure, she's helping Cyril, but that's not the only reason why she resorts to threats. She does so because she is Dedra Meero, the woman currently plotting to wipe out an entire civilization. Andor is what no modern series wants to be. Patient. I could spend hours breaking down every time it masterfully makes you wait and patiently leads you to the destination at the right moment. Not 1 second before. It avoids the usual attempt to massage your insatiable but detrimental demands for weightless dopamine. It doesn't insult you by having low expectations of your processing power or attention span. It doesn't try to bait you into watching its next episode with crazy end-of-episode cliffhangers. Its cliffhangers exist within episodes.
Gorman is of great interest to the Empire.
Aimed at subtly building your emotions up so that you may deeply feel and relish the payoffs when they happen.
Proceed.
Every line carefully crafted and put in there that we thought was mundane wasn't. Every scene quietly leading up to the moments that mattered. So well built up that even when you suspected or even outrightly knew what was coming, your full body weight still sunk into the couch, bed, floor, or whatever other surface you sat in, completely in awe of what you have just seen. Impact. The type of impact you could never feel with the fleeting pleasure that accompanies flashy dopamine-loaded episodic content that succumbs to your every whim. The type of impact that could only be a reward for waiting.
I hope things work out for you.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Upon concluding Andor, I find myself reflecting on the shift in entertainment consumption culture. There's a saying that goes, if I get what I want, will I want what I get? We've all had that phase, especially in our teens, where we try to grow up too fast and are eager to participate in activities we are not ready for. If you're lucky, you had parents that did everything to protect you from your childish whims, and one day, when you were actually grown up and mature, you were thankful to them for not letting you have your way. We have progressed so much as a society that we now have pretty much everything at our fingertips. Algorithms tailored to us and a heart attack amount of distractions, which I suppose shouldn't necessarily be a terrible thing until you consider how the lack of structure might be derailing not just our entertainment, but other aspects of life. However, recent reports suggest that binge culture is experiencing some fatigue, and there is a slight shift in demand for more structured weekly episode release schedules that allow for weekly discussions and a wider cultural impact. Perhaps this is the first step in recalibrating our habits to be less hasty and allow for great stories that leave a lasting impression on us to unfold at a natural pace. Andor rebelled against the machine and has been received well, so there's hope yet for us. Want to see a really cool edit inspired by this same show? Right over here.